Welcome, everyone. This is Sit With Me, my podcast that's going to be centering on all the paintings that I've been working on for the last 3 years. My current exhibition is at Afriart Gallery, Sit With Me, the Diary of a Free Thinker. I have a guest today, and we're going to be discussing unlearning, and in the context of the male gaze, femininity, actually feminism, and self-awareness. So this is my guest, Joel. He will introduce himself because he does a great job at that.
All right. Yeah. Hi, my name is Joel. I work in tech and in finance during the day. And then also during the day, I run a podcast on philosophy and theory and things of that nature. So in case you're wondering why I'm here talking about feminism and the male gaze, I think it's because I'm trying to learn about all those things and unlearn things that I had known coming up as a young African man. So thank you for having me.
Perfect. So what does the male gaze mean to you, and how have you seen it manifest in everyday life?
So I thought about it in two ways. The first one was, I think, through friends of mine who were really deep into understanding feminist theory and praxis. And the way it had been framed to me was that women's bodies in particular were being shaped and presented back to us in popular media, whether it's movies, music, whatever the case may be, as objects of sexual fantasy. And so you almost get the dynamic that culture was portraying what happens in real life, that the idea of woman is something that is of objective value to a man. But now when I think about the gaze, I'm learning it from like film studies. The idea of you gazing upon something is you have power over it. You're trying to understand it. It's what is this thing for me? If you walk into a place that you've never been before, you find things that are recognizable because you understand what their place is. So I'm now thinking about it as the male gaze is something where you even see males on screen in a certain way which posits them as useful to you. So an example is every other movie you watch, it's a man saving a woman.
Exactly.
Now, I guess the easy critique would be, why are men always saving women? Right? And so that's the surface level, but I think the bottom level is that why is it that that's thought as the normal? So even if it's something that is thought of as common sense, you have to understand that things come with a certain history. So for me, the idea of the male gaze is just what is it that constructs being a male? That means that you're going to look at women a certain way, you're going to look at other men a certain way. It's not necessarily saying that it's an evil thing, it's just trying to explain the historical patterns that have led to a sort of imbalance in the way we look at each other.
That's true. I love how you pointed out the over-sexualization of women through media. And I think what I really love about my current series, the Not Fragile series, if you see the boxes on the heads, I'm trying to highlight the voices of the women, their thoughts more than just what they look like. Yes, their beauty is still shown in their bodies and in the fabrics of their clothes, but I want the viewer to see and hear the voice of the woman. So every time they look at the work, they have to say back, not fragile. They have to say back her voice so that they identify either with it or question themselves in what role they have played to either to subvert the male gaze or to perpetuate it. So I'm very proud of myself for that.
We're also very proud of you.
Thank you. So what role does empathy play in unlearning the male gaze?
I think it's the biggest part. I think there's a contingent of men that are frustrated, and I understand where the frustration comes from. Every time we're told things like, all men are trash, or you hear certain ways in which the male gaze is dominating. Now, I think the reactions can be that, but I'm not doing that. Why are you putting me in this? I'm not in this thing. And I think that's where the conversation has ended because you feel like you're being attacked. But I suppose the other side of the coin is this weird thing that we do. I say weird because we don't understand when we're doing it that it's an example of the fact that we have dehumanized people. Is when they say, would you treat your sister that way? Like if a man is, say whistling at a woman on the street, the example that we give to each other is, would you like that if that was done to your sister, to your mother? Like we have to find some relation that we care about, and then we go, oh yeah, in that case it's terrible. But if it's not your mother, your sister, maybe is it fine? So I think there's that weird calculus we do where we go, you can, I guess the guys will be guys, but me myself, I'm respectful. I don't do that kind of thing. Moreover, when I see someone doing it, I'm the one who says, why are you doing it? Would you be doing it if your sister, your mother? And I think they get frustrated. But where I think empathy is necessary is I need to feel what it's like for you to be living your life. And it's odd because it took me such a long time to even start listening to women in terms of reading their books, reading everything from bell hooks to Audre Lorde. I used to be like, well, these things they're written for the feminists. I felt like I'm not meant to be in that space. It's something informing her. But I've been fortunate that, very, really smart women in my life were able to call me out on it and say, but read this because you're not getting the perspective of what we're saying to you. You're only hearing things from us and going, oh, Bambi. And I think empathy is not oh, Bambi. Empathy is taking active interest in what someone is going through so that you feel what they're feeling. And the only way for me to have done that is to be really close to women and also really close to women's issues in terms of the way they've been vocalized, the way they've been written out. And it's humbling. I mean, I think guys, when they listen to Beyonce, for instance, they're hearing some of that. They're like, there's some fire there. And I think that one, for all the Beyonce fans, I don't want to bring fire here, but that's just the tip of the iceberg of probably even acceptable commercial versions of the kind of anger and pain and fear that women feel just by being women in this society. So I think the empathy could start with the people around you, but especially for men, I would suggest trying to listen. Just quietly listening in and then seeing if you can recognize pain. Because if there's anything that we can all recognize in each other, whether we are gay, straight, male, female, whatever the case, we know what pain feels like.
Exactly.
And if you can see someone else's pain, you can also then share in their joy eventually.
That's true. I love how you're saying it's about recognizing each other's humanity. And earlier on you mentioned how some people feel offended when they're told that, oh, you are a part of the problem, or that men are the problem. And I heard someone say before that it's important to recognize where you have failed and not only celebrate where you have, because we tend to, let's for example say the triumphs of America. We will celebrate all the triumphs, but many times they have tried to erase history or to water it down because they're like, why should we focus on the negative? But the negative reinforces the need for people to see where the role that they play throughout history so they do not repeat it. So just as we are going to celebrate the triumphs of what the men have done in society, we must also recognize where they failed so that we can move forward. And I think it shows to your strength if you're able to sit with your mistakes and see where you can make the change. Yeah.
No, I think to that point, I suppose for me the biggest part of learning that was I had the matrix idea of if I remove certain ideological frames from my eyes, I'll suddenly see the world as it is. But now I found that the most ideological position is the one where you think you don't bring ideology into what you look at. So for instance, when I look at a woman, when I just look at someone, I'm not just looking at a person. There are certain expectations I want to have there. I remember hearing this weird joke about in the 70s, 4 black women opening up a pizza restaurant and everyone just pausing for a minute and going, hey. Just that shows you that why is it that it's odd for you to expect that 4 women could start a pizza restaurant? Exactly. So it's a sort of innocuous thing, but ideology just means what you expect to see when you look there. I expect, for instance, there's been this whole negotiation going on online that I've been seeing about should women shave their armpits, should women shave their legs, and I'm even thinking about why is that a question that we are framing publicly for people to say, yes, let's allow people to do that. So in my mind, whatever we call normal is something that everyone has to interpret. And if that, I guess, basin of what we call normal is a very limited set of this is what a woman looks like. She's supposed to be tall, supposed to look this way, she's supposed to have children. There are very limited things in that box. So if we keep reaching into a box that says this is normal, and we only find a few varieties of women, that means a vast swath of women's lives are not being appreciated, they're not being seen, they're not being recognized. And they themselves also have to now say, well, am I not normal when I'm pulling into this bag? So I know everyone says normalize, but that's what I understand by normalize. It means let's expand what we call normal.
Yeah.
Because if we keep saying this is normal and the other is not, we are, looking at people's experiences and saying it's just not what I'm experiencing, therefore it's not normal.
True.
And I think that's abuse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true. You can be multiple things and they can all be true and they should all be embraced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you exist, I mean,
Yes.
it's normal. There you are.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for saying that. I think also because the series is about removing those limitations for women. And if the painting behind you, I think plays into what you've just said about people being on different journeys and they're all equal and valid and it's all normal. And I think society tends to uphold marriage more than the others. If you're healing, that means you were weak. That means you were broken at some point.
Yeah.
Oh, you need mending. Can we help you?
Yeah.
And sometimes the people want to do the work themselves and looking out for opportunities. Because I think you can see the symbolism here. The lady in the middle, of course, the wedding gown, and then the mirror for introspective work, and the telescope, like looking out for opportunities. And you can be all those three at the same time, and you can be one of the other. And all of them are valid, and you're a complete, real, normal human being. Yeah, so I'm glad that I get to encompass that in the work, and you've vocalized that beautifully. We could go on. Yeah. So have you encountered any resistance from others when discussing gender equality and challenging traditional norms?
Yeah.
And how have you dealt with it?
Definitely.
Yeah.
But to be fair, I don't think I've had it rough. In some senses, I've now realized I have a certain privilege in the world. You're nodding your head like,
I'm
duh.
listening.
Duh, you man. So maybe in delicate terms, I have a good job. I present very normally, and people say, yeah, in a normal society, you're supposed to be head of the ship. You're supposed to have a lot of money. You're supposed to be tall, dark, handsome. Like, if you tick all those things, your voice has a bit of command as a man.
True.
So now, in certain male spaces, when I talk about the fact that, no, we shouldn't be thinking about those things that way, it can easily be signed off as, oh, you're simping, or you're just you're trying to show off that you're a virtuous person, you're virtue signaling.
Self-righteous.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think when it goes deeper, I think that reaction is because you don't understand something, and it has a sort of commentary on what you think you are as a man. And because it shakes that, we quickly want to dismiss it. So I did an episode on my pod called What the Theory. And it was talking about masculinity. And that pod, the responses I got from a lot of men were along the lines of, now you're just taking in this new ideology, like, why are you, like, as soon as you even start hearing the word masculinity, I think people's defenses come up.
Yeah.
But for those who've gone the full way, we realize that it's a trap for us because we're defining masculinity as patriarchy.
Yeah.
Yet those two don't
different.
necessarily have to be the same thing. So I think if you over-identify with, I'm a man if I'm dominating, I am a man if I'm doing traditional things,
Exactly.
you have already set the template that just being male isn't enough for you to be a man. So we already agree on that point. Now the question is, what kind of men, what should we define as being a man? And there's a lot more on the side of traditionality than there is new stuff.
Yeah.
You can just go online and see Jordan Peterson or Andrew Tate or whoever the case may be. And they'll be talking about a long history of men are supposed to be virtuous, men go to war, men build houses. Like, because those examples are so readily available, it seems natural.
Yeah.
But when you're trying to do something new, at the time, it's not possible. So there's a much harder degree of persuasion that you can give to a young man by telling him, no, but you can understand there's pain going around all over. It's not just your pain. I think we probably have to do a better job at speaking to young men as fellow men about the options that they have, because too often they end up falling for that red pill.
Yeah.
And so for me, the experience has usually been that I come up against that red pill thinking. I can argue against it, but it takes such an amount of time and effort that it's almost like that saying, the lies have been around the world 7 times before the truth has put on its pants. So you take a lot to start unraveling what someone is saying, but I think having things like this where it's being spoken about in art, it's being spoken about scientifically, economically. Like, the more voices that are speaking about, no, this isn't correct. There are different ways to be a man, that it becomes more and more normal. So I suppose the thing is to use the voices that we have and to get as many people as possible to keep talking about it, because eventually it will become normal. I mean, we're fighting against decades, millennia of certain ways of thinking. They won't disappear overnight.
That's true. Yeah. We make strides, and that growth is not linear.
No.
Yeah, you can have a few setbacks and then move forward again.
Yeah.
I wanted to point out, when you talked about masculinity, I think most people also assume that it's the strong characteristics, the leading, and femininity is the softer, more vulnerable, more like intimate, nurturing, and yet men are also capable of nurturing. Men are capable of vulnerability. And I think it's necessary to know that I think we are working within the constraints that the society has said, that there is femininity for females and masculinity for male, and yet they're all characteristics of human beings, and you can be either one. And because you're a leader doesn't mean that you're an aggressive woman, or that you cry with your sons, that you are a feminine man, Yeah. So it's
so weird that you're saying that, because like today, actually, when I called my dad, he said he was in the garden, like tending to his roses.
Yeah.
And then my mom was making like barbecue. So typically, at least when you go home, at least in the village, it would be the other way around.
Yeah.
So I didn't notice that coming up. My father is a little progressive, at least for his time.
Yeah.
But it, I think, nudged me in the direction of, I don't think necessarily, in my mind, the whole idea of going somewhere and saying, oh, are you going to be the one cooking? Like, even that conversation, to begin it, you would receive a thing of, you mean your hands are not working? So it was never a debate, but that's because it was the way I was brought up. So I figure if certain ideas start to make their rounds and they start to enter our homes, potentially then the question of what is it that makes a man and a woman is going to have to change. And probably that's what people are afraid of, because if I'm strong to save you, but I'm supposed to provide for you.
Yeah.
So I think the pushback of conservative people, which I'm not trying to rubbish, I get where that fear is coming from, is this is a form of life that we understand, that we know how to do. Exactly. I know how to be a man this way. It's a scary thing to change it, but I think the fact is it's going to change inevitably, and we might be the ones to craft what that change is going to look like, rather than being reactionary and trying to hold on to some mythical past, like when they talk about, moms in the state married and what. Yeah. But every time I would talk to my mom and her sisters, the tea they would have.
Yeah.
They were really holding up things with lies.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess it's good that this generation is unlearning and, trying to reevaluate what really makes them them. And it's really profound to watch. Even for, like, I watch my mom deal with choose to learn about mental health and ADHD and different spectrums, and she sometimes gets it wrong. She's like, oh, aina makantu, like, do they have something? Do they have ADHD? And we're like, no, this is how it presents. But she's open to hearing. She's open to learning, and it's beautiful to watch. Yeah, because most people think that, oh, okay, we are raising the younger generation, but the older ones still matter. Yeah.
And also the way we have some, like, I think you talk about sympathy and compassion. Like, compassion for people who are making mistakes on their journey there. I think, like, online, I understand why there was the exhaustion from the emotional labor of having to explain to someone something that they can Google. But I'm thinking, at least for me, I need to create an openness to say, okay, this person is going to be inelegant in the way they mention something, but they're pointing themselves in the right direction.
Yeah.
I have felt a self-chastisement in terms of, if you're in a progressive side of thinking, we often can be very tough and stringent on people who are trying to do the right thing, because you can catch them in the mistake, so it can become very puritanical.
Yeah.
You didn't say it the right way, or you used the wrong word, and you can push people away in that regard. So it's a fine line between correcting things that are wrong and doing it in a loving way, and also just coming off as, you have to be pure 100%, you have to know the right things before you can sit with us.
Yeah.
So to me, that's another thing in terms of to try and be a little bit more compassionate and open
Yeah.
to people who will definitely make mistakes, because that's where I'm at. I'm definitely making mistakes, and so it's the compassion of others that has allowed me to learn and unlearn the things which I thought I knew.
Yeah, the balance between justice and mercy. It's very hard.
See, this is why you're the one with the exhibition.
Thank you. Let's move forward. So, any advice you would offer to other men who may be going through a similar unlearning and reevaluating their beliefs regarding feminism and gender equality?
Banange, pray. It's okay. I think to me as a man, what I'll say is the first thing I felt was anger. But as a man, I think anger comes up because it's easier to admit to yourself than fear. Our sort of continuum of emotions it's kind of dulled. We only have like, are you horny? Are you hungry? Are you angry? But if you explore that anger, I think you'll see that it's a fear of, if the social dynamics are changing, that means values that I thought I was pursuing in terms of I'm being a good man is now being questioned. But that anxiety is telling you the truth. That anxiety is showing that it was never a solid pattern. It wasn't a helpful pattern to begin with.
Yeah.
And just like Charlene said, values of bravery and goodness and whatever the case may be, provision are not exclusive to the fact whether your genitalia looks a certain way or not. It's a human thing. And it doesn't mean because someone else is embracing their humanity that you're losing your own. It just means we have to rediscover how we, I guess, fulfill the new roles we will be playing as men and women, not only for ourselves, but for each other. So, yeah. And also start with bell hooks. It's an easy entry point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And also you can tweet at me, you can send me a few DMs and I'll tell you what you need to do.
The
I'm on the
savior
journey
of
as well.
men.
I'm trying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, in one of my paintings, actually, it's this one here, the amethyst dress. Hope I'm saying it right.
Amethyst.
Yeah.
That's the color.
That's the color.
Okay.
Yes, but it's exploring the malleability of life's chapters. If you notice, the image has a woman holding a crumpled paper, and there's crumpled paper on the floor, and the power of light to illuminate what's going on in life, right? So at the window, it shows like a new beginning, and the floor of the crumpled paper shows closure, you know? And as life's chapters are malleable and we are navigating, this new journey, and you're rewriting all of this, is there a fine line between unlearning, reinventing oneself, and denial?
A fine line between unlearning, redefining yourself,
and denial. Yes. Because we're saying that I can change my story. Do you think some people are in denial?
I guess, maybe it's on the pathway to change, but I believe in a dialectical approach to change. But I just mean that usually the most important things will have aspects that seem antagonistic. Like you're saying now, we want to remain true to ourselves and remain honest, and integrity means you're consistent.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we also want to change for the better. So how can you remain with integrity but also change? How can you pursue those two things? They seem to be in opposition, but I think you find that those oppositions come together in a certain manner that allow you to then see a whole new perspective. Both of them are teaching you something. An example I'll give for me is I never believed in like soulmates or anything of that nature. Of like, this person was created just for you.
For you, yeah.
I'm like, who created them? Like, am I an instrument for them? Like, it seemed very weird. I believed in freedom, but it's the matter of love that taught me that there is an element of necessity in contingency, and contingent circumstances bring about necessary ends. So it's almost like, let's say, for instance, I fell in love with you. My life might be going great up until now. It's, I have a few one-night stands here and there. I have money that I'm spending. I'm enjoying the Kampala life. Like, one night I'm stumbling out of the bar and you pick me up before I fall.
Yeah.
I'm like, my goodness, who is that? The natural order of my life changes. You now become the most important thing in my life. If I was to be asked at that point what my life was, I would say everything was leading up to the moment of me meeting Charlene. Retrospectively, when I was living it, it didn't feel like it was fated to happen. But only after it has happened, you're like, I don't, this is perfect. I wouldn't have wanted anything else to change. So I suppose in that, with respect to your question of how do you change and, does it come with denial? I think those are the pathways to you finding out who you really are. And who you really are is an outcome of the work that you do. I don't think that it's like you are truly who you are deep down inside and you're just removing things to reveal that. No, it's the work that you do that creates the person that you're supposed to be.
Exactly.
So like the pen is in our hands, or the paintbrush is in our hands, whatever this may be, and we are the ones supposed to paint the picture. And we'll only know what's inside of us when we're done painting. So I think just lean into that discomfort.
Nice. I could not have said it any better. Wow. There is this quote on perfection that you told me a while back. Could you reiterate it?
My quote. What was it? The quote that perfection isn't when nothing is lacking, but when nothing could be taken away. And I like it because I've always thought of perfect as you keep refining, keep adding something until you reach this perfect place. But I felt perfect in the relationships which have involved compromise, have involved complexity, but I wouldn't have it any other way because all those things, the way they added up, was to something more beautiful than if I could have said, remove all the pain, remove all the nonsense. So for me, perfect is a base minimum when nothing could be taken away. It's when you're just like, everything here is crucial to make this work.
Nice. Thank you for coming. I love that. Thank you for joining us. You can see the exhibition until the 20th of December. Sit with me, The Diary of a Free Thinker.